Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hey everybody, checking in on the MJ sector. So we headed into this week anticipating consolidation would be a fairly likely scenario. So we started the morning just looking for signs that consolidation was happening. So we got them fairly early on. We did see CGC break the high of Friday, but not a whole lot of follow through. And after that break, it went straight into a new low of the day. So after that happened, we had a 5-minute equilibrium setup that was very clear and gave the bears a nice opportunity, number one, to top fish and look for a 5-minute lower high, or if just waiting for the pattern to play out, the bear break occurred at 27.72 and very quickly dropped 2.5% in pretty much 5 minutes after that bear break occurred. So that was the signal. We got the red flag in the first 10 minutes, and then that's the confirmation of the red flag that consolidation is underway. So we're now looking at the hourly time frame, and we have an hourly bounce giving us a lower high at the end of the day. So our short-term resistance will be 27.45, and if we drop down and break 26.81, then daily consolidation tomorrow will very clearly be following through. Declining bear volume is one positive, but again, as I talked about in the weekend video, what I have to see as a skeptic, I have to see a clear higher low and continuation to end this week. The second half of this week is very important for this sector because if we don't break the highs, I am calling that a loss for the bulls. ACB has earnings after hours on Wednesday. They already pre-announced, so I think most of that's going to be priced in. I'm not really going to look for that to be a catalyst in either direction. We also have the potential tomorrow in the USMJ space. I'll just wait till we get to the USMJ space, but MedMen, we're looking for an update on their pending deal from the DOJ. So consolidation underway on CGC. I spent the morning selling pretty much all of my positions. And the reason for that is because, again, number one, I'm not a full believer of the bulls at this point. Number two, I don't want to get back profits from last week. And number three, we got signs that consolidation was likely starting. So CGC, watching the hourly trend and watching to see where we can form a daily higher low and then try and see that continuation move. Cron had some bad news today. Some potential dealings where their latest deal might have dropped $100 million into the pockets of some insiders. Remains to be seen, but that had a big bearish reaction on the price. Keep in mind, let's look back at CGC real quick. Weekly time frame, absolutely a possible bear flag. So again, can that be a bear flag? And can we drop down and break 22.76 support? Absolutely, that is on the table. Cron, weekly bear flag setup. So we're looking down at support of 1071 and then 1058 as the only support levels nearby. Distance before dropping to a lower low, under 7%. Distance required to drop or to move to a higher high. And we're looking at 9%. We're closer to a bear break than we are to a bull break on Cron. That's a big setback and completely sucked away that momentum. Hourly time frame, just a weak little bounce at the end of the day. On any bounce on the hourly tomorrow, we will just be looking for a lower high compared to 1223, the high of today. ACB starting consolidation. So ACB, we need a clear daily higher low and then a bull break to confirm a trend change. Again, this little dinky move is not the trend change I'm looking for. I want a clear, distinct pivot point. And that's not one. It was a pivot point on the 4-hour time frame and the shorter term time frames that gave some nice signal, but not nearly enough to be confident on the daily time frame. Same as everybody else, higher low and higher high is a must. APHA, after entering when the volume stood out to me from the sector move at the end of the day on September 3rd, entered in the 630s, exited today at 699. I placed my stop under 7 psychological and said, all right, if we see consolidation in the sector, I'm going to get stopped out and I will look for re-entry, looking for a daily higher low compared to 614. So again, in the video, more notably the USMJ video over the weekend, but I talked about comparing individual names to their peers. And if we look at these individual names, how much of a drop would it require for APHA to drop to a lower low? We'd have to drop over 14%. Everybody else is a much smaller percentage than that. So that is why APHA stands out as more bullish comparative to CRON, ACB, CGC. And that's why I am potentially interested in looking for a daily higher low to form and reloading my shares cheaper. At this point, I could get them about 3% cheaper. But if we see another pullback day tomorrow, I may be looking for an hourly oversold entry to rebuy those shares. If we were to drop down tomorrow to 670 and below, that hourly RSI would be approaching oversold. TLRY. So that's a distinct pivot point. We have our low, our high of the bull move, and now we must form the higher low and see continuation. This is what I want to see when I'm looking for a trend change. A very clear pullback and pivot point, and then we must see follow through and a break of 33.66. VFF had news this morning, gap and trap, gap up for selling scenario, and into profit taking. If we see a bear break tomorrow of 11.62, daily consolidation will be underway, and the bulls must hold 10.18 and break 12.53 to change the daily trend, keeping in mind that the weekly chart is now in a tightening pattern, and this could play out through September. T-God bears, huge gap up, well, not a huge gap up, huge bearish candle after the gap up, and dropping down with only 264 as our nearby support, and the bulls were completely derailed by ACB taking their investment off the table. And there is potential. There was other news today. I have to double check, and I haven't yet because I'm not trading T-God, so don't know. But bears are in full control very clearly, and our new daily lower high is at 307. Labs, same boat as everybody else. Daily consolidation is underway. 426 is the must hold, and we must see a bull break compared to 549. Best case scenario for sector bulls tomorrow, hold the low of today. If we don't, best case scenario for the bulls tomorrow, see dip buying, close at the high of the day tomorrow, and have a long lower wick, giving us the potential daily higher lows. If we see neither of those scenarios and we see another red day and another weak close, red flags all over the place because the burden of proof is on the bulls, and that certainly would not be proving strength to us. So I will be approaching things from a clean slate perspective now that I have trimmed some shares. Actually, OH is one position that I did not sell today because it did not give me a reason to, and we'll go over that in just a second. So USMJ sector, I did a talk for friends last night, a little PowerPoint presentation. It's about 90 minutes long, and I'll try and upload that at some point. Very basic. If you've been watching this channel, it'll be old news for you, but for people who are not stock traders and are not familiar with the stock world and are not familiar with the opportunity, it would be potentially something good to show them. So on to the USMJ space. Curaleaf, daily inside bar, very tight range. At this point, 957 is the most important support to me. If that level can hold, bulls are looking pretty good. That holds the daily exponential support. That's healthy consolidation, and then we're looking for continuation. If the inside bar breaks bearish, 957 is on deck. If it breaks bullish, we're looking back up at the recent high of 1033, which has to break for the daily trend change. When is the last time that we've seen a clear daily trend change for the Curaleaf bulls? It has not happened since the all-time high. Even the major bull moves we've seen, no higher low and higher high follow through. This is the bulls having to change that, and this time needs to be different, and the bulls need to show up and prove it to us. C-Web, bear break. So this is the kind of scenario where the bulls failed to break resistance and people like me bail. So C-Web was the first position that I sold this morning because I already had the red flag from Friday. The red flag from Friday was the bull break of short-term resistance and the inability for any follow-through. And if the sector has already made its bull move and is now entering the consolidation phase, if we haven't seen a bull break on an individual name that's going to be subject to correlation with the sector consolidation, that's not a good thing. I don't want to be in that position. So I did end up taking a small loss on C-Web, and my position from last week in the MJ sector is a good example of taking small losses and letting the winners ride. So I let APHA and OH positions ride a lot more. Those gains were 6 to 10%, and my C-Web loss here that I took was maybe 1% on that pullback. So this is people like me exiting on the failed bull break attempt. Support 2159 has broken, and we're looking right back down at the low of $20. We did not change the daily trend, so we are not confident that our weekly higher low has been established until that daily trend does change. And the close of the low of the day doesn't help either. MedMen. So MedMen's still in its tightening range. The bulls are unable to prove anything by not being able to break 273. So bears still have the upper hand. Well, yeah, they still have the upper hand. Bulls have to prove themselves. But we have a scenario where it was a 30-day window to get a response from the DOJ. And that expires, I believe, tomorrow. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a news release updating what's going on, because the DOJ has to either come back and say, we need more information, or the deal is approved. If the deal is approved, and this is a potential realization I had at the end of the day as to why OH had a strong day, if this deal is approved, that's bullish for OH, because that means the DOJ is approving deals, and that premium on OH comparative to CL would shrink if the MedMen deal is approved. So that's a potential short-term catalyst to be watching for on OH, and I would assume MedMen would break this equilibrium bullish if we did get that deal news. If not, it's just another delay, and that'll be that. So OH, very healthy daily consolidation, bull flag setup. This is the consolidation that I want to see. It's one day ahead of everybody else. Look at Friday's candlestick. It's almost like it got the consolidation out of the way. If you compare Friday's candlestick with all of the major Canadian MJ names on the daily that we just looked at, it's like OH's Friday is those names today. And this is the scenario I talked about, where if we get bear follow through, close at the high of the day, form a long lower wick, that's what all the Canadian MJ names want to see. They want to see what OH is doing right now. So OH needs to see a break of 837 for continuation, and to confirm this daily bull flag, if we were to break 784 support, bull flag is off the table in my opinion. Still looking for a daily higher low, but no longer a bull flag. So I am still in an OH position because, again, no reason to sell today. It held up much better than its peers that stood out, and then the end of the day action only gave confidence. IAN, the volume. Again, I cannot stress this volume enough because it's bear volume. And the bull volume on the way up is being dwarfed by the bear volume on the way down, and we already broke to a lower low, so I talked about in the weekend video how statistically speaking, the odds of IAN hitting a lower low compared to its peers were higher. And obviously that's followed through at this point. And the bear volume, this is the highest volume candlesticks, 800 and 900,000 shares traded. It's the highest that we've seen in about a month. And again, it's all bears. When you see the open at the high of the day and the close near the low of the day, sometimes you can have a candlestick with a long lower wick, and that tells you, okay, it was bear volume, but some of that's bull volume of bulls buying the dip. And that's not the case here. And we can zoom in for the details on the hourly and say, okay, there was some bull volume on that 1 hourly candlestick, but if we look at the red candles and the amount of bear volume coming in, it's supply and demand. And supply of shares is clearly exceeding demand for shares. Again, why? I don't know. But in my opinion, there is definitely some kind of overhang from that deal with MPX where there is excess supply of shares that are still being sold, and it is squashing any... It's a scale. And when the demand for shares starts to get more than supply, the stock price goes up. And that's what we saw last week in the sector as a whole. But that scale didn't move very far on IAN, and it went right back to supply being higher than demand. On any hourly bounce, we're just going to be looking for a lower high. Pretty much anything under 353 is just a lower high. Support is going to be 3 psychological, and we will see if the bears get more of a flush down here. And if they don't, it's the potential scenario where if someone is selling significant shares, that they stop when we get to a certain point to allow the price to recover a little bit, because we assume that the person or entity or whoever it is doesn't want to see the price free fall just by selling into the bid. Maybe sell a little bit, knock it down to support, let it bounce a little bit, start selling again. It feels like that's what's been going on. But again, that's all speculation. All we know is that no other MJ name in Canada or the US out of any of the major names has dropped to a lower low yet, like IAN has. TRUL is maybe not that far behind. It is one of the weaker names as well. Short-term support is 1036 and 991. This bounce attempt is very weak. It's not convincing, and it can very easily be a weekly bear flag dropping to lower lows as well. IAN and TRUL absolutely stand out to me as some of the weaker names in the USMJ sector, and that may change, but we'll know when it changes. We will see it happen with the trend and with comparisons to peers. So that's where we stand overall. Ducks came back this morning, which was a pleasant surprise. Haven't seen them in a week and a half, so they're still hanging around. And their feathers are changing, and they were a little bit skittish towards me as it's been a while, but they got back in the swing of things. And I also got a blowtorch for weeds in the driveway, and I'll have some fun with that. We'll do an upload video of that over the weekend. Otherwise, we'll end it with some Iceland. I appreciate you watching, and we'll check back in tomorrow. Keep an eye out on MedMen news. We'll see if we get an update.